Hello everybody and welcome back to This Week in Magic Online Finance. I'm your host Chaz Andres. As always, we're going to get started with the news, and there's not really anything to report this week. Everything is fine, nothing is ruined, and your Magic Online collection is worth, So, yeah. Unless you've been living under a rock in a cave on Mars for the past couple of days, you're probably aware that there's been something of a little market panic on the old MTGO. Your modern collection, well, that's worth about 30% less than it was last week. Your standard collection, worth about 18% less, and that's only because it's backed up by set redemption, whereas Modern isn't, so that's probably why Modern dropped a little further. And that Modern drop hurts a lot, especially because that 30% drop is already on top of the roughly 50% drop that your collection has taken since April or so. Yeah, so if you bought into MTGO back in the spring, I'm sorry. Your collection is worth a lot less than it was. Alright, so we have a lot to get to today, but let's start by answering a relatively simple question. Why did the MTGO market crash now? And really, it's the result of two things happening simultaneously, causing an almost perfect storm of fear and anxiety. The first is that on Monday, Channel Fireball published an article called MTG Arena is Killing Magic Online. And despite the rather reductive and sensationalist headline, I pretty much agree with everything the author was trying to say in that article. It's well written, the facts are well sourced, and other than one of the author's conclusions, which we'll get to a bit later, I pretty much agreed with everything that was said. What I didn't so much agree with was the community response to that article, which was, read the headline, skim a couple graphs, maybe read the final paragraph, and then run over to MTGO and panic sell their entire collection. And even after all that, I think we probably would have been fine, except for the fact that then WotC made their big old esports announcement on Thursday, which further reinforced the idea that Arena is the future of digital Magic, and people took a look at the MTGO market and saw that their collection was tanking as we speak, and then they tried to sell their whole collection, and the whole thing kind of snowballed into this big old disaster. And here's the thing, it's hard to look at this behavior and say that it's entirely irrational. I mean, there are reasons for the paper game to survive and even thrive alongside Arena. It's tangible, people like owning things and having things and collecting things. There are these great social aspects to the paper game that no digital CCG can ever replace, but Magic Online is not really a thing that anyone's really liked. It's a thing we tolerate because until recently, it was the only way to play digital Magic. So why would anyone stick with a program that is essentially an older, crappier version of Arena? So, to make a long story slightly shorter, a lot of people reached the same conclusion on Thursday night and Friday of last week. Nobody wanted to feel like the dumbo who still had all their money in Blockbuster video stock as Netflix was making its way into every home in the country, so they sold their collections. So, in response to this, a lot of the major bot chains had to start lowering their buy prices. And then on Friday, most of them had to suspend collection buying altogether. And everyone freaked out on Twitter, despite the fact that this has actually happened several times before. The last time it happened was last year when everyone freaked out about play points, and then a few years before that it was because Brian Kibler wrote a blog post, and we all thought that Magic Online was dead forever and ever. So yeah, Magic Online has a long and storied past of crazy market panics that don't really amount to anything, but a lot of you are telling me that this one feels different, and I am tempted to agree with that. I mean, it is pretty clear that Arena is the future. I ran a couple of polls in my Twitter feed and confirmed that a lot of you have quit MTGO to play Arena almost exclusively, at least for now. And Arena is pretty clearly better and cleaner and nicer and easier to use, and well, it's clearly the apple of WotC's eye as well, so why should we expect our MTGO collections to rebound? Alright, well, I legitimately believe Wizards of the Coast when they say they're doing everything they can to keep MTGO relevant, even as they're transitioning into Arena. And that's because it makes financial sense for them to do so. MTGO has been a major cash cow for Wizards for years, and to just throw it by the wayside without at least trying to keep it around would be financially irresponsible. Also, they've put their money where their mouth is on this stuff. They're raising the prizes on the mocks next year, they're introducing all these format-focused events, they want people to keep playing Magic Online. The counterpoint here is that the best intentions of WotC don't amount to much if people just leave MTGO and play Arena anyway. I mean, no one's gonna hang around Magic Online if queues don't fire, and no one's gonna spend $70 on a piece of digital cardboard if they think that WotC's just gonna shutter the program and take it away. So, if MTGO becomes a ghost town, it's going to die. And this to me is why I'm very doubtful that MTGO prices will ever be as high again as they were last spring. I mean, I don't think anyone could have expected that Arena would be this good and this popular right out of the gate, nor that Wizards of the Coast would pivot into it as hard as they did. But that all happened, and as a result, there's a lot of risk baked into the MTGO experience now, and that risk is going to be part of all of the prices going forward. It's going to keep the overall market down over what it would be if we all thought, hey, Magic Online is definitely going to survive the next 5 or 6 years, right? And the other big problem is it's going to be really hard to convince anybody new who already isn't invested in Magic Online to start buying in now. I mean, hey, want to go spend a bunch of money on fake cards and an obsolete program is not exactly a winning sales pitch. But here's the thing. You can acknowledge that all of that is true and still understand that now is not a good time to sell your Magic Online collection. I repeat, now is not a good time to sell your Magic Online collection. Let's start by talking about my only real problem with the Channel Fireball article, which is that it glosses over just how difficult it is going to be to get Modern up and running on Arena. It implies that either WotC will come up with a simple enough solution to get the Modern card pool onto Arena, or else they'll just abandon Modern and leave it by the wayside and focus all of their attention on the new Arena Forward Eternal format that starts with Amonkhet or Kaladesh or something like that, and we'll all play that instead and it'll be fine. Problem here is that both of those options are terrible. I mean, remember Frontier? Remember how you didn't want to play Frontier because Frontier was bad? Well, Frontier was bad because the card pool was too small. And this Arena Forward Standard Plus Eternal format has an even smaller card pool than that. That format might be fine in 4 or 5 years, but it's not going to be good anytime soon. And if WotC took away our really good Eternal format and said, here, have this lousy one instead, players would riot. And as for just sort of bringing the Modern card pool into Arena, well, that is easier said than done, and I'm not sure that WotC wants to do it anyway, at least not anytime soon. Right now, they want Arena to be simple and clear for new players. Throwing Blorwyn and Betrayers of Kamigawa into the mix, that ain't gonna cut it. So yeah, at some point maybe they can solve this by some sort of Blorwyn remastered or some sort of Modern Masters set that's Arena exclusive that has most of the best cards in Modern in it, and we can all play that. But that is not going to happen soon. WotC has said it's not going to happen soon. There's no reason for it to happen soon. And what that means is that for the next year or two at least, MTGO is still going to be the only way to play Modern online. I also suspect that the price floor on MTGO is a little bit higher than a lot of people think. It's not going to zero, because at a certain point, a lot of new players who wouldn't be able to afford to buy into Legacy and Modern before suddenly can afford a deck on Magic Online. I mean, it's hard to imagine these queues becoming ghost town when players can tell themselves, I can either spend a lot of money on a Modern deck in paper, or money and time on a standard deck in Arena, or I can play these tier 1 decks for very little on Magic Online, and oh, I can qualify for the Mythic Championships while I do it. Lastly, when it comes to Magic Finance, you almost never want to be moving with the herd. I mean, yeah, we're all freaking out about MTGO's imminent death right now, but a month from now, we're gonna forget about this, at least temporarily, and be focused on, I don't know, the next Ravnica set, or the next Detective Pikachu trailer, or whatever else is coming down the pipe. And yeah, a lot of people left MTGO, they're not going to be back, but others will come back, and the people who stayed are going to be more confident buying and selling cards a month from now when this is all not in the front of everybody's mind than they are today. And also, remember, we're not trying to get back to last April's prices. Those are sunk costs. They're not coming back. The only thing that should concern us right now is where the market is going from here, whether or not we can beat the market today. And looking at the indexes, it appears as though the panic ended over the weekend and the markets are at least softly beginning to rebound. I promise you, the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor that the modern market is going to be higher in 2 months than it is right now. Same for vintage, same for legacy, same for standard. And that's kind of the lesson I want you to take away from all this. It is possible to acknowledge that yes, at some point in the future, Arena is going to probably render MTGO obsolete. But also, selling your collection right now into a blind panic is still not the right option. Okay, so here's my advice to you. First, take a deep breath. There. All right. Now, acknowledge the fact that it's probably best to hold off on selling your collection for at least a couple of months. Just wait until the spring. I'm not saying wait 2 years or 3 years. I'm saying wait until the spring and see where we're at. They're not going to add any new features to Arena between now and then. Third, log on to your MTGO collection, take a look at how many event tickets you have, and consider spending some of those on modern staples that panicked and sank this weekend, preferably something like fetch lands, which are usually very stable and likely to rebound fast. I'm not saying to go to your bank and throw a bunch more money into Magic Online. I'm just saying take the money you already have parked there and spend it on something that's likely to go up. Remember, one of the best ways to recover from a market crash is to buy things when they're at their bottom so that you can sell them in the future and recoup some of the money you lost. And then go play some Modern, or heck, go play Arena, and come back next week where we'll see how the market responded over the past week, whether it rebounded or not, and we'll talk a lot more about what comes next. So until then, I am Chaz Andres, and I will see you next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.